Welcome back to the Nintendo 64 Diaries, the limited series that I, Connor McCabe, am doing here on the Call Me By Your Game podcast feed throughout the year of 2026 to celebrate the 30th anniversary of my favorite console, the Nintendo 64. It almost feels a little anticlimactic to make such a big deal out of saying that word, the name of the console, and not screaming it like the Nintendo 64 kid, who I don't know if has been mentioned on the first 3 episodes of this. But anyway, I'm really excited to get into episode 4 of this series today. We have something special for us lined up. A little bit of housekeeping up top is that if you're listening to this today, and this happens to be your first episode of Call Me By Your Game, this is going to be a little different than what you normally hear. On a typical episode of the show, I invite someone on to hear from them about a meaningful game from a particular window into their life. And this will have similarities because I'm going to be talking to somebody about what this console means to them, but it's just there's going to be a hair of a difference here. So I recommend listening to next week's episode of the show, which will be your normally scheduled programming. Other than that, you can...
recommend that they listen to this episode too.
I think pause this episode.
No. Listen to this episode.
Wait 7 days and then listen to this one after that. But you can take the guest advice if you really want to. A little bit of housekeeping, too, is that if you want to support Call Me By Your Game and the Nintendo 64 Diaries, you can do that a few ways. The most 2 helpful ways I think you could do that, or ways that you could do that, are by sharing the show with a friend, whether they love video games, video game podcasts, or the Nintendo 64, or any of the subjects we get into today surrounding the console. Or you could check us out on Patreon, where we have a bunch of bonus video... I'm struggling right now.
Yeah, you said bonus videos.
Bonus video game. Mm-hmm. I'm actually feeling great today. It's 4:00. I have a sparkling water, but I'll slow down a little bit. Maybe I was moving it too high.
Yeah, you were going too fast. That's what's happening.
Yes.
And because the Nintendo 64 can really only support 15 frames per second.
Yes.
That it just can't keep up.
I'm really thankful that you tied this into the subject matter
You're
today.
welcome.
It makes me feel better about all of my flubs. On our Patreon, which is a place where you can go and support us to get bonus video game podcasts every week. That's what you can do there. You can support us at a financial tier. We've got tiers at $2, $5, $10, and a couple above that. But those tiers that I just named are where we have bonus podcasts that air, including our Games Club series. So we're always covering one game in a book club style format over there. Our guest today was on the first one that we did this year, where we covered Fire Emblem Awakening for the Nintendo 3DS. And currently we're covering Batman Arkham Asylum. If you're listening to this episode in a couple days, episode 3 will already be out. So check that out there. Again, it's a place where you can support us, and by doing so, you get a bunch of bonus video game podcasts in your feed. Let's introduce our guest today. That way I don't got to worry about running, overclocking the system or running at a frame rate that I just can't handle. Let's welcome to the podcast Plant Daddy, Pikmin Head, and the co-host of the Nintendo Cartridge Society podcast. Patrick Ehlers is back. Patrick, welcome.
Connor, thank you so much for having me here to reminisce about the Nintendo 64.
You're very welcome. You're someone who, there are a lot of people that I really want to have on this series this year, but because I'm only doing 12 entries, not everyone's going to be on here, but I knew I had to have you at some point. So I decided to wait when we were done recording a weekly podcast together, give you a little breathing room, and here you are in April.
We had been recording a podcast together that sometimes, some weeks, was 2 podcasts.
Yes.
Because we would do this sort of extra bonus ones. And then I had my own podcast, which is twice a week. And I was just like, Connor, we can do this series, but give me a minute.
Yes. So I guess this is delayed gratification, but here you are. People who listen to the show are familiar with you. You've had 2 solo episodes. You've been on. You've also listed, at the time, what was your top 10 favorite video games ever.
Right.
You've been on a number of co-op episodes. Looking at my list of what I've got coming up this year, as I told you, got to get you on one this year if it works out. But, Patrick, outside of being familiar with you, why don't you plug your podcast and share anything else that you might feel is relevant?
Yeah, sure. Well, Connor mentioned that I am one of the hosts of the Nintendo Cartridge Society podcast. So talking about the Nintendo 64 is very squarely my corner, my side of the street. This is where I work. This is where I live. The Nintendo Cartridge Society podcast is a podcast I've been doing for 10 years, basically, almost 10 years, with Mark Mitchell, who has also been on your show here, Connor. And, we do one episode a week where we are talking about what is new and what is happening in the world of Nintendo right now. And then another episode where we take a more esoteric view of like a topic within the world of Nintendo, which I think is probably where most of my, reminiscences about something like the Nintendo 64 would live, but kind of in a scattershot. I don't think we've done maybe we have done like an ABCs of Nintendo 64 or something like that. We are not really in the business of doing like retro game podcasting. So
yes.
I'm excited to kind of get to focus that a little bit here on the Nintendo 64 diary. But yeah, I think that's enough about me. Otherwise, I write about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes, you do.
You can check out my books, the TMNT source book, which is out there right now, or coming out in August, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Anatomy of a Mutant anatomy book that I wrote, which is awesome. And I'm so excited for that thing to come out.
And I assume that Anatomy of a Mutant isn't sort of a melodramatic telling of people's perspectives when one mutant has fallen off a slippery, icy roof and maybe it passed away?
No, I mean, I did pitch that I was like Anatomy of a Fall, but with Ninja Turtles, and they were like, no. So it's like a biology book where it's like, here's a mutant, and we see like cross sections of its bicep, and we talk about like how it has various evolutionary advantages that allow it to whatever. It's got all original art by Mateus Santaloco. It looks awesome. But yeah, I'm plugging it now. No one can buy it until August.
That's so cool, though. I can't wait for that to come out, and thank you for yes-anding my Anatomy of a Fall joke. Did you see that movie, by the way?
I didn't see the movie, no.
I did over Christmas break this year, just looking for something to watch with me, Amanda, and my parents, and we settled on it. Easily would have been one of my favorite movies of the year it came out, which I think was 2023, I
think that's right. That's one that, maybe it was 2024.
Okay, it could have been, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one that I gotta get around to. Connor, I've been. Are you on Letterboxd?
I am on Letterboxd. I'm not good about logging my movies, but I do have an account. And let's see if I can.
We gotta be friends, Connor.
We do, Patrick. I'll say publicly right here, so anyone can come follow my one-line reviews, which are usually just me trying to be funny.
Hey, Connor, that's exactly what I do.
I love it. So my profile, Patrick, is just The Cons. So TheConz is my handle, Cons. And I'll read you my Project Hail Mary review. How about
great.
That?
Yeah, and then and my username is PJE, so PEEJAYEH.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, read me your Project Hail Mary.
So I gave it 4.5 stars. Mm-hmm. Pretty high ranking there, and my 4-word review says Project Hail Mary rocks.
Very good.
Mine,
for Project Hail Mary, I gave it 4 stars, not 4.5. And my review is, I like it when Gosling falls down. I like it when Gosling recovers.
Amazing. That's so good.
My most recent review is for Patriot Games.
Oh.
The Harrison Ford, Jack Ryan movie from 1992. I gave it 3 stars. And my 1-sentence review is, a non-insignificant plot point in this movie revolves around Harrison Ford zooming in on a photo and saying, tits.
Now, if that doesn't get me to want to watch Patriot Games, I don't know what would.
It's all right. Patriot Games is okay. We had watched Clear and Present Danger a couple weeks previous, which I liked quite a bit more.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's the sequel, still with Ford as Jack Ryan.
Yes.
And so we just went back and watched the other one.
All right. Well, hey, I love a little letterbox tangent. I do want to get in the habit of logging them roughly within the day that I see, but I can improve my, my my logging ability another time. Before we dive into your history with the Nintendo 64 and the place that it holds in your life, I wanted to take a quick second to talk about some, excursions I've had on the console recently, Patrick.
Hey, yeah, please.
Now, I know that you listened to a recent episode of Video Games, a Comedy Show, where I discussed some N64 playing that I've been doing.
You mentioned it offhand, sort of as a tag up on your your response to an episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society where we were talking about graphical showcases.
Yes. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. And, this got me thinking about a few things. Well, first and foremost, I want to say that I've been playing Pokemon Snap, which I have my cartridge here, my original cartridge. It's more bare bones than I remember. That being said, it is one of the few games give me a better feeling while playing it. I love looking at Pokemon move around in a world and behave and react to a few little ways that I can influence them.
Yeah.
I love that. And I've been reminded of so many fun moments in this title of like little events that you can sort of make happen as you go through a particular course. And I also want to say that the opening title sequence of this game almost made me emotional the other day when I first booted it up and just watched it. Did you interact with this game much? We're kind of eating into your subject today, but I assume it wasn't a big game for you.
Connor, you're correct.
Okay.
Because I wasn't the biggest Pokemon guy.
That's right.
I liked Red and Blue when they came out on Game Boy. But for me, I kind of got off the train there for the next decade, and I wouldn't really loop back around to Pokemon until much, much later. I played new Pokemon Snap on Switch, which I liked and has a lot of that same, very minimal ways of interacting with like the environment and just being like, when can I throw this apple at the right time to, tempt the Clefable out from behind the rock. And that stuff's all really fun. And like, I bet it was totally invigorating to see that on Nintendo 64.
Especially at the time when, as a kid who was in the middle of Pokemania, I had the Pokerus, Patrick. I'd come down with a fever that would last for a few years.
Oh, yeah.
It's been
and then you got it again. You got Poke 19.
I got Poke 19 actually before most people did.
Yeah, it's true.
It was actually because of Sword and Shield, but then thankfully I got the vaccine that took care of that after I recovered. But this has been said about this game, and it was said heavily at the time, or often at the time, but seeing the Pokemon move around in a 3D environment and behave was the first time we really ever had that. We got, because playing the games on the Game Boy were cool, but there was so much we were filling in with our own imagination, which I think still remains a very special part of those games, is sort of filling in, the world with your own thoughts and feelings. And we also had the anime, which did a great job of characterizing the Pokemon and seeing them live in a world. But this was just so special. The secrets were so cool to discover, especially when we didn't know all of them. So I've had a fun time jaunting around with Snap. I'm almost through the entire game in, under 3 hours of gameplay. Been playing that. I completed Banjo-Kazooie for the first time.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be covering that on a co-op episode that'll air on the Patreon at the $10 Engineer Toad tier, but also for free on YouTube a week afterwards, just starting next week. So I'm recording that in 2 days, and then I've been playing a game I bet you have a little more experience with, which is Star Wars Rogue Squadron.
No, you're wrong. Flip them. I have a ton of experience with Banjo-Kazooie. Rogue Squadron I didn't really play.
Oh my goodness. I always want it to be a little better than it is, but I still like the experience of being in an X-Wing or in a Boo Starfighter or an A-Wing or a Y-Wing. You name it. I like being in it, and I still find that I struggle with the same things I struggled with as a kid in this game.
Yeah, it's I mean it's a game that I have had a little bit of time on sticks and just like, couldn't really. I don't know. I have a hard time with a lot of Star Wars vehicle exclusive games. Like I did get into Star Wars Squadrons on PS4 when that came out, partially because I was playing it in PSVR. So like, I could do the thing where you turn around and you see your astromech droid behind you.
That is so cool.
So
That's
cool.
awesome.
But yeah, the actual like gameplay of it, it's all too finicky. Like I don't want to fly a plane in real life.
Yes.
Why should I simulate that?
Yeah. I like to simulate it, but I would never want to do it in real life.
Right.
I'll leave that to the brave pilots out there that we have.
Yep. Big, strong men and women, tears in their eyes.
But it's been great. I've also the last thing I'll say is that I find myself playing through once again The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Ooh.
But this time on the Nintendo 3DS.
Here's the thing. I continue to hunger for like a 3DS game to be playing since we finished Awakening earlier this year. That like it's just such a wonderful little console. I want to have it on me at all times. I want to just be able to pop it open and play a game and play like an incredible game because there are so many of them. Should I start an Ocarina of Time playthrough?
Yes, I think even with the remakes, the rumors of a potential remake later this year, I was like, who cares?
I don't think it's real, Connor. I don't think it's real anymore.
Was it one of maybe the planted fake rumors that's out there?
Doesn't it sound too good to be true? Doesn't it sound too like right in a new Star Fox game, but it's with better graphics and it's a classic feel and a remake of Ocarina of Time and probably some kind of Wii Sports thing. Doesn't that sound a little bit too neat and tidy?
It does, but I'm ready to be hurt again, I think.
Sure.
I'm like, bring it on. But the answer is yes. I think you should boot up Ocarina of Time on the 3DS. And like you, Patrick, I basically haven't gone a week without playing something on it since we did our games club, or I guess since January.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of N64 for me. I just kind of can't get enough of it right now, as I'm not really playing anything particularly new, and I'm just doing Arkham Asylum for the Games Club. That's it.
Yeah, Connor, I know you don't need this pitch, but like you talking about playing Pokemon Snap, you got to get into Pokopia, man. Like the thing that you're saying about like it's just nice to see the Pokemon moving around in 3D space and like the sort of inherent and they're not fighting each other or being violent towards each other. Like Pokopia's just got that in spades, and I'm devouring that game. I feel like way slower than a lot of our compatriots in that I'm like still making my way through it. And I know a lot of people kind of like mainlined it. But it is so fun and so satisfying and like never feels like the kind of, Animal Crossing thing of like, all I'm really doing is hanging out in this game. Everything feels like objective based, but still like cozy and fun. And you're just in the world of Pokemon. I really, really love it. And I think you would like it too.
I think I would. And as I've been playing through Snap and sort of articulating a little more the things I enjoy about it and being able to identify those, everything I hear about Pokopia, I'm like, it almost feels like a spiritual successor in doing the same things that I loved about it, but doing so much more. Like that game, Snap, is very limited because the N64 had limitations, but it makes sense to me, and they still found ways to be creative and unique. Pokopia, a lot less limited. So I think I really do want to play this game. Yeah. The thing is, I have the space for it right now. I just haven't done it.
I mean, I think, and the game does a lot of, there are a lot of times where it throws up the brakes where it's like, you set Pokemon to be working on something and it's like, they'll be done with it tomorrow morning. Mm-hmm. You can obviously do other stuff while they're working on it, but it's a really great opportunity to be like, okay, now I put the game down and I can play Batman or, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll keep you posted on if I have to journey into the world of Pokemon again, particularly a desolate one in the future. Let's do what we came here to do and discuss your relationship with the Nintendo 64, Patrick, and make another entry in the Nintendo 64 diary. I know that you are someone who, well, let me say this. As I said before the podcast, I am a little extra excited to have you on today because you differ from our previous guests on the series in one distinct way that is, I'm so excited to hear about. And that is that you were a huge Nintendo fan already when this console was announced, when it was coming out. You had a whole relationship with it after your NES and SNES days, and then you got to move on and continue to play new Nintendo stuff. So you had a perspective that is just unique to the group of people we've been having on so far.
Yeah, I mean, just to cut through the euphemism, I'm a little bit older than basically everyone else that's been on the show. So in 1996, September 1996, when the Nintendo 64 launches in North America, I'm 14 years old. It's the beginning of my 8th grade year. I'm in like the middle of my junior high experience at that point. So yeah, I had already I was in the process of developing tastes in games and
developing as a man,
certainly, and was like saving up allowance and it's a big part of Patrick lore is the first video game console I bought with my own money was the Nintendo Virtual Boy the year previous. But I also bought the Nintendo 64 with my own money on the day that it launched, going to Target before the store opened, because I knew I was plugged in enough that I had been following it for just about a year, and was like, this is the first game system where I was like all the way invested in it from reveal to release, and knew about it as a new thing, as a conscious, being. And it wasn't handed down to me. It wasn't like ancient wisdom from, older siblings or anything like that. This was just like the thing that I was already plugged in and actively engaged with when it was announced and then came out.
The N64 to you is what the GameCube was to me.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
And there was so much anticipation. My love blossomed for video games, and Nintendo in particular, during the Nintendo 64's heyday, which is why I'm doing this series. But I'd love to... You just set the scene so well for us, Patrick. That is. I'm so excited to jump in.
Yeah. Well, can we spin it back just like a little bit to my first impressions of what the thing was before it came out?
We can definitely do that. Can you spin back just a little farther, actually?
Sure.
And set the scene a little bit for where you were as a video game enjoyer and a Nintendo fan in the previous generation.
This is right. And this is important, right? Because there are two strains of my video game fandom that would play out over the course of the Nintendo 64 generations in ways both good and bad, right? On one side, I had an NES, had a Super NES, had a Game Boy, and was very plugged into the first-party Nintendo games, right? Love the Mario games, love the Zelda games, Super Metroid, one of my favorite games of all time. And so I was just very into that side, that first-party side of the lineup. But with the Super NES, and then sort of retroactively going back to games on the NES, I was also becoming a blossoming JRPG fan. Specifically the Final Fantasy series, and then obviously Chrono Trigger, and Secret of Mana, Secret of Evermore, the Final Fantasy Adventure game on Game Boy, all the Final Fantasy Legends games on Game Boy, then back to the original Final Fantasy on NES. Wow. Dragon Warrior, I knew it as, of course, Dragon Quest #1. All of these games loomed as large in my head as the Nintendo first party games.
Incredible.
Final Fantasies 4 and 6, or as I knew them as 2 and 3, are remain some of my favorite games of all time. Going into this next generation, seeing that split of here's where Nintendo is and here's where JRPGs are, had a profound effect on me and my Nintendo fandom for a decade or two after.
Wow. Is one thing I was wondering about getting into this, was that specific schism almost that we might call it,
I think we can and we have to. That, like, such a big part of what makes the Super NES special is the way it sounds. And it sounds as great as it does because it has a Sony sound chip. And like that's part of them, like Nintendo and Sony working together on hardware that could have been a Nintendo PlayStation at some point, but Nintendo ends up not working with them at all going forward. And Sony ends up picking up a lot of those games that were, this sort of like reason for my gaming enthusiasm at the time. Final Fantasy VII not coming to Nintendo 64 is like, that is a crushing moment for my adolescence.
Well, thank you for rewinding a little farther back for us. Now I want to do what you were aiming to do already, which was give a little preview of where you were at with the anticipation when the console was on its way.
Yeah. So, and this is also, I guess, part of my history with Nintendo. Prior to that, I was from the beginning subscriber to Nintendo Power, and so the first place that I saw the Nintendo 64 was the January 1996 issue of Nintendo Power. It's issue number 80, that has the cover says Happy New Year on it, and new is NU. And it's this weird like white blown out, like there's really kind of nothing on it, but the cover like opens, has this like gatefold thing to it. So you open it up and it's this bizarre graphic. I totally recommend looking it up. That it's like a sea of Nintendo 64s that are, and they all say Nintendo Ultra 64 on them because we were still sort of in codename land there. And then in the foreground, there's Diddy Kong looking out into the distance, and he's sort of like surfing on a Nintendo 64 controller. And in the sky above the sea of Nintendo 64s are cubes, like 3D cubes, that each side has like graphics from a Nintendo 64 game on it.
What the heck?
It's a really bizarre image, because it's like they're leading with Diddy Kong. What is this? But that has a blowout feature that is whatever Space World used to be called before Space World, but the show in Japan where they were like blowing out the like preview event, the big preview event for Nintendo 64. And it had, a lot of information on the system itself and Mario 64, and then everything else is sort of teases. Like we see Pilot Wing 64 in there. There's a very early version of Ocarina of Time that they just called Legend of Zelda 64, and they're already talking about it needing the 64 DD, like the disc drive. They're already teasing this peripheral that would never come out in the US. There's Mario Kart 64, which they were calling Mario Kart 64R at the time. I don't really know why. Wave Race, which I don't know if they didn't have the racers modeled yet, but it really looks like the F-Zero karts are racing around on the water. Shadows of the Empire, Body Harvest, Star Fox 64, a game called Kirby Bowl 64, which never came out. GoldenEye gets a little shout out, but there's no like graphics or anything from it, just that it's a game that they're working on. A game that was being called Creator, which I think was sort of a like forerunner to the like art studio that would come out on 64 DD. That got me very excited because I'm a huge Mario Paint fan, and they were talking about a sort of like 3D Mario Paint. Incredible. Doesn't exist. And then a game called Buggy Boogie, which never came out, and Blast Dozer, which would become Blast Corps. This thing lit my brain on fire, Connor. I was in no way like bored with the Super NES. I was playing some of the greatest games on Super NES had just come out that year, right? Like Chrono Trigger's a 1995 game. We just had Donkey Kong Country 2. The console is not slowing down at all, but I'm so in the bag for Nintendo that I'm like, yes, absolutely, this thing must be mine.
You were absolutely sold. Despite not needing to buy anything, but you were ready.
Yes, I was ready.
So this comes out, this issue, in January.
Yeah.
And I looked up the cover, by the way. Incredible. Unfortunately, a quick Google search, which I won't spend the time doing as I'm interviewing you, didn't reveal all of the goodness inside of that fold-out cover that you were discussing.
Yes.
But this issue comes in January. The console, of course, doesn't come out for another 8 months. Do you remember anything about your time of anticipation in that window?
Well, I mean, because it was also delayed. Like, I think at that time they were targeting like April or May or something, and the console was being delayed. So like, I didn't, with the exception of the Virtual Boy, which had come out the year before, and I was already like getting tired of by the time this issue comes out. Some like 6 months later. Like I wasn't really. It's hard to know like. The hype cycle for something for like a new video game console coming out at that time was nothing like what it's been for the last like 20 years, because like the internet didn't really exist. Like it sort of, I heard both Grant and Jacques mention Prodigy. We were also a Prodigy family. Our login was DQXW92B. That was our like username that I will never forget. But so yeah, like I really just had to like dance between the raindrops and pick up like or not pick up, but Nintendo Power would come to my home every month, and like that was the like sole source of the hype.
Yes.
And I really don't remember having too many like allies amongst my friends at the time who were also excited for this thing. My friend Hannah and I have a memory of us going to the Toys R Us in Racine, Wisconsin, and playing like the demo thing before it came out. Other than that, like not a lot of my friends were that plugged into this in the lead up to it.
Okay. Do you remember, had you played a PlayStation at this point? Were you an arcades kid?
I was an arcades kid for sure, but like I was such a fan of like beat 'em ups and fighting games that usually if I was in an arcade, I was finding the Street Fighter 2 machine or like the Turtles in Time or whatever like that. So like 3D graphics and 3D gaming was not really something that I was messing around with all that much. I think probably around this time we were playing Duke Nukem 3D at like the card shop that we used to play at. They would have a room in the basement that was just a bunch of computers like LAN together, and you would like pay for an hour down there and play like Duke Nukem together. Like the idea that I would be able to run around in the 3D space as Mario like felt like witchcraft to me.
Yes. So the day comes, you already set the scene a little bit. You went to you said Target before school?
Well, so no, I think it came out on like I didn't have school that day.
Okay. So just before it opened, you were there.
Yeah, just before it opened. And I'm 14 years old, so I'm with my father, who, reflecting on it now, would have been about my age now at the time. We went to the Target on Green Bay Road in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is where I grew up. And we're in line with maybe a dozen other people, right? It's a mix of kids like me who are there with their parents, some like older guys, and some like older teenagers. They open the doors at opening, and like I have this memory of like the inside of the Target and just like going left and walking all the way down to the back, which is where the electronics department is, right? And they've got a separate like kiosk or like checkout desk or whatever for the electronics section. And I get there first because I was going to be first for this thing.
Oh my gosh.
And they're opening like the big boxes that have the consoles in them. Like they haven't, it's not, again, like console launches now are nothing like what they used to be. Like did these Target employees know that they were opening on the day of a console launch? Like we have, probably not, because they're opening them as they go. And I'm like, I would like a Nintendo 64 and a copy of Mario 64. And the guy's looking in the box and he's like, well, we've got the systems, but the only game we have is Pilot Wings. And I was like, that can't be true.
Yeah.
There are only 2 games that are launching today, and there's no way they didn't give you one of them.
Especially the one.
The one. So, I was like, what about that box over there? And there was like just another, they in the process of unboxing these things, or unboxing the box, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, sure enough, Mario 64 was in there. And so I ended up walking away with the system and a copy of I think my favorite game on the platform, and to this day I've never owned a copy of Pilot Wings, but
had you caved, had you not been assertive, that's a sliding doors moment for you.
Totally. And then went home that morning, hooked it up at in the TV in the basement, and like played it all day, and had my mind melted, as so many of us did who had not seen 3D graphics like that before, when Mario jumps out into the open field in front of Peach's castle.
I love the story. I've heard versions of it before.
I know.
But there was a detail that is really striking me, or that I don't think I grabbed onto before, which is how you already put it into words. It's the difference of console launch 30 years ago versus today. I remember the only console I've gone in person to pick up at launch was the PlayStation 5. And that was also a very strange time. It was during the middle of COVID. Well, I guess
right.
11 months or 10 months into deep COVID at this point. Even at this GameStop, which was a complete mess, they at least had, a place for people to line up in an orderly way. They knew what was coming. I can't imagine the stress of arriving to this Target and just knowing there's no one who's going to give me a number. I've got to get back there.
Yes.
And probably trying to walk and not be too disruptive or look like a crazy person. Who knows? I mean, it's so long ago.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. It was so long ago, but my memory is that I left my dad behind and he caught up,
Yeah.
And, forever grateful to my father for coming with me on this. I dragged him along on so many weird shopping adventures because when I was this age, I was also really deep into Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. And he would take me to card shops and to comic book stores and all kinds of stuff, where I knew he was like, this is weird, but okay, Patrick's into it. So a wonderfully supportive man. And I just left him behind.
Shout out to Mr. Ehlers.
Yeah.
Lyle. I've got a couple good stories about my dad doing similar things for me. I've shared them on the podcast, but I love hearing those from you too. You've got the console. Patrick, what are some of your earliest memories of playing it, whether they be feelings, specific moments in games, anything you want to share about the early days?
Yeah, so, in the early days when all I had was Mario 64, I remember, having friends over to show it to them. Because again, I had friends that I played games with, and none of them had been, properly. I was not an effective evangelist for it before it came out. And I remember having a friend of mine, a relatively new friend of mine named Dave Edwards, who I met in the beginning of 7th grade. Because our last names are alphabetically adjacent. And so during 7th grade orientation, we were sat next to each other for a whole week. And I think he saw that I had magic cards and we became friends that way. And Dave's always been a little bit of an asshole as an adult. As an adult, he's even more of an asshole. But at the time that he came over, and was like kind of making fun of me for like spending all this money on the new Nintendo thing. But then we played Mario 64 for, you know, the afternoon, and then afterwards he was like, okay, so I'd like to borrow this thing from you. And I was like, no fucking way, Dave.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, like that's my earliest memories of it were showing it to my friends and them not like that,
not getting it?
Seeing them, well, no, getting
Yes.
it, but not being ready for it, right? That I had been spinning myself up into like a lather about this thing for 8 months by the time it comes out. And they just like dropped into it, and it being like a mind-blowing experience for them. But then I also like remember the feeling of, you know, just having Mario 64 for those first couple months. I believe I got Wave Race 64 for Christmas that year. And I either got or another one of my friends got Mortal Kombat Trilogy, which came out in November of that year as well. And I remember those being like the first 3 like big games that I played a lot on the Nintendo 64. I have a memory of playing Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Which, Connor, have you ever played the Nintendo 64 version of Mortal Kombat Trilogy?
No, but I actually have a cartridge of it.
Do you really?
I do. It's right down here. I could find it, but no, I've never played it.
It's good. It's insane. It like lets you play as all of the boss characters, including like Goro and like Motaro and Kintaro, whichever one is the like centaur, right? And I have a distinct memory of being at someone's birthday sleepover and playing Mortal Kombat Trilogy all night long, like literally not going to sleep. I was racking my brain to be like, whose birthday party was that? I can picture where in town it was, like what part of Kenosha it was, but I don't know. I don't know whose birthday this was. I just remember playing Mortal Kombat all night.
Yes, you remember the important thing.
That's true. Yes.
That's fantastic. You're getting into these early days, Patrick. I feel like I'm already, and you're not expressing this necessarily, but I'm already starting to wonder, did you feel the effects of the limited releases on the console early on, or were you just kind of in heaven with what you had?
Well, it's tough to say, right? Because like, you know, during... and I couldn't find these. I was scouring Nintendo Powers today trying to find it, but like I was fairly certain there was a Nintendo Power that expressed Final Fantasy VII coming out on was going to come out on the system, and a sequel to Earthbound. Earthbound was a game that I liked, but never owned a copy of my own on my own when I was a kid. But I knew it to be a JRPG in the mold of, you know, the other games that I liked. So I was holding out hope for a little bit that, you know, my favorite genre of game was going to be coming out on this thing. And, you know, when I don't actually know exactly when, but sometime in 1997, I discovered that it was only coming out on PlayStation, and that's when I never owned a non-Nintendo console to this point, right? And I was like, well, I'm going to need a PlayStation.
Yeah, wow.
And like this thing, like, and I just spent all this money. You know, when you're a kid and you're buying a console with your allowance, it's a huge investment. I just done it twice because of the Virtual Boy and the Nintendo 64, and I'm like, well, great, now I need a fucking PlayStation. And like that felt like a betrayal to me. And you know, like 1997 is not delivering for me, right? Like Star Fox 64 comes out in June. I love that game. I was obsessed with, Connor, do you know the VHS, the promotional VHS that Nintendo sent out for Star Fox 64?
I've never seen that one.
Okay, I recommend you look it up. It's the narrative is that like these two goons, one from Sega and one from Sony, and they have like the names of the companies printed on their shirts, and they're goons in a classic, like, you know, mob movie sense. They kidnap a test pilot from Nintendo and like grill him about the features of Star Fox, and you know, it's Star Fox and the Rumble Pack, and it's like a 9-minute long video that is like part Nintendo Direct presentation, part like sketch about them, like, you know, they put a Mario doll in a vice to like torture it and like they crank it to squish his head. And I watched this thing back today, and Connor, you mentioning the opening video of Pokemon Snap, like making you emotional because like you had this rush of, you know, nostalgia. Seeing this promotional video for Star Fox 64, I was like, oh no, some of these line readings are like tattooed on my brain.
Weird.
Yeah, it was a wholly bizarre experience. But, you know, I'm so plugged into this thing, and I'm, you know, part of this may begin my like obsession with what Nintendo's going to do next, and sort of like analyzing them from the meta perspective, and like what is the future of this, because I'm just scanning the horizon being like, when do these RPGs come out?
Yes.
You know, and you know, so Star Fox 64, when it actually came out, huge for me. I love that game. Diddy Kong Racing, also 1997, huge for me. But you know, by this point I'm also like, Twisted Metal, Final Fantasy VII, you know, Resident Evil. I've moved over in a lot of ways to the PlayStation. And some of that is, you know, I like those types of games on the Super NES, and I just needed that replaced somewhere. And some of it was, I was 15, I was 16. I wanted games that were like meeting me at a level of maturity that, you know, I mean, say what you will about the actual level of maturity of a Resident Evil game, but like I needed that at that time. It couldn't just be Star Fox.
It's great to have some representation of this, I keep saying the word schism, but this phenomenon that was happening at the time, or that I've heard about so much, even as a 90s kid. I didn't really experience it because I was so much younger. I guess I experienced a version of this when the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox were coming out, of the split between people who wanted a more, I guess, adult or mature experience on consoles that tended to offer more of that versus what Nintendo had. It's still a thing, I mean, kind of still a thing to this day, but I'm so glad to have you represent this for us at that era.
I mean, the other games that I love on Nintendo 64, obviously, like Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie we talked about earlier, Donkey Kong 64, a game that is bad but I loved.
Same.
And like GoldenEye I played with friends, you know, Mario Kart 64 played with friends, but like, you know, those are all games that are like pretty bright and bubbly. And you know, I tried to find the more like mature games on the system, like, you know, GoldenEye I feel like sort of falls into that category, but like you know, Turok the Dinosaur Hunter and like Perfect Dark, all games that I tried to play, but you know, I don't know if it's a function of frame rate or what, but those first person games would give me a headache. Like I could not really play them for any extended amount of time. But like I was still appreciating the things that were more colorful and like Nintendo-y on the system, but I just needed more.
Yeah, and from what we know about you, Patrick, as the host of a Nintendo podcast, as someone who I know would go on to get a GameCube after this, it's not like this caused you to just abandon the console or the company. It still continued to be something you engaged with when something was there for you.
Yeah, well, and like, you know, my love for Nintendo like basically never diminishes. All right, I guess it does diminish. I guess it just becomes less exclusive.
You just adopted other lovers.
Kinda, yeah. We had an open relationship, me and Nintendo, where it was like I needed to. There were some things that I wasn't getting out of that relationship, and so I had a little bit of a wandering eye during that time. But yeah, it's you know, and when I look back on Nintendo 64 games now, I have, I think, less nostalgia for them than my cohort now, because like I recognize that they're like difficult to control, and like they don't age nearly as well as like a 16-bit game, and like all of the ambition is in directions that feel strange to me. Or at least like feel at odds with what I perceive to be the ethos of Nintendo now. And Nintendo was generally pretty good at being like, what's the fun way? What's the fun in moving Mario around a 3D space? They nailed it in Mario 64. And then we don't see that again. We got to look to Rare to sort of do it with like the Banjo-Kazooie games, and eventually Donkey Kong 64. But like, I don't know, in my mind, it never gets better than Mario 64. I think Ocarina is great. I think it's a wonderful game. But the innovation for me was right at the beginning.
I think there's an easy argument to be made that it reached as high as it would go with that first game. I as much as my personal favorite game is on the console, and it's
Majora's
not one
Mask,
of the ones we've named. Yeah, so I totally understand that. Now, when it comes to,
I do just want to shout out, of course, Quest 64.
Well, this gets into...
Is this your question? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Ask the question.
No, it's okay. My question 64. I really just wanted to know, as you continue to, the years go by, you continue to engage with both the 64 and the PlayStation. I'd love to hear about how you ended up feeling about the absence of RPGs as a whole.
I mean, I know that it had an effect on the number of RPGs that I played, because I played 7, 8, and 9 Final Fantasies on PlayStation, and then I attempted to play Quest 64, but that game sucks. Have you ever played Quest 64, Connor?
I've never booted it up once. It remains a curiosity for me.
Yeah, let it stay that. You can be curious about it all you want. It's no fun to play. The character whose name is Brian. The character's name is Brian, Connor.
Wow.
Really, really terrible. And it has got more of like an active combat, like you're running around in like a little like octagon, casting spells and stuff. But it's just not a good game. So yeah, I guess the question was like, how did that affect me not getting to play a bunch of RPGs on the system? Sort of.
And to be a little more specific, was that something you just came to terms with, and you're like, all right, I guess I'm going to enjoy a big chunk of my gaming elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean that. It's coming to terms with it, but it's just finding a solution, right?
Yeah.
And the solution wasn't on the Nintendo 64, which to this day like feels like a bummer to me. And like Nintendo, for being a company that like so frequently is like, here's how we reach out to other players. Here's how the Wii will make it so that we can reach out to people who can play with motion controls. The DS is how we reach out to people who want, something in their pocket they can play brain training or Nintendogs. And even the Switch is like a thing that's on the go and on your TV, that like all these other generational moves that hadn't been made yet at this time are like in the interest of being inclusive, and the Nintendo 64 just felt so much more exclusive to me, where it was like winnowing down the experiences, and like siloing Nintendo 64 players off from everyone else, or at least that's how I felt at the time. It took those like greater feats to really get those greater feats of the DS and the Wii to really get me back into Nintendo.
That is very understandable. I think they not only were a little more exclusive in the variety that they offered, not just with basically having no JRPG or RPG representation on the system, but also there are plenty of other styles of games that I think really suffered. I think like
totally
action adventure games, there's some good ones on it, but there's no Metroid on this system.
There's no Metroid on the system.
I can't even imagine what the hell that would have looked like on here.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to know. And like the things that they replace it with are like, I mean, like, I wish I had encountered Smash Brothers at the time when it came out. I didn't know Smash until Melee. I never really played it there. But like Mario Party, which is like fine. I like Mario Party just fine. I like playing it with friends. But like, I didn't know anyone who had 4 Nintendo 64 controllers at the time.
Yeah.
Represents a big expense. And then we destroyed those controllers by, rolling them around with our palm. That poor thumbstick is just not a long-lasting piece of equipment. I felt like what came in the place of, Connor, like you say, those types of games, action adventure or role-playing games, were not really meeting the moment for me.
Yes.
I moved on to PlayStation. I a couple years later bought a Sega Dreamcast. Like the Nintendo 64 was the thing that like made me wander.
Yeah. Wow, it sent you out into the wilderness for some other self-discovery. Almost.
Yeah, that's right. Which is also, and again, like so much of my perspective on this at the time is obviously tied into you joked about it before, but becoming a man.
Yeah.
That I was 14 when the system came out. And then when the GameCube comes out, I'm graduating from high school. So like for me, the Nintendo 64 era represents my junior and like proper high school experience, so it's like it's my friend group playing Magic the Gathering. It's falling out with those guys after they sold their cards at Gen Con without me, the fuckers. It's discovering the Strolling Strings group that I was part of in high school. It's being in school plays. It's getting a girlfriend for the first time. It's all of this stuff. It's graduating from high school, Connor.
Yes.
It's applying to colleges and not getting in and being like, well, fuck it, I guess I'll just spend a year at home before like trying this again. It's in my mind tied up with so much like development and disappointment and like loss of friends and gaining of friends.
Yeah.
And like reinventing myself over and over again. I don't know, like I think I just attach a lot of tumultuous life stuff around the Nintendo 64.
And it's, as much as I want to blame all of it on the console, I can't do that. But it is interesting to me that there are I wouldn't necessarily call it a parallel, but as you are growing up and going through this this period of your life that you clearly have so many feelings about, the system's also not meeting you at where you would have hoped for. And it's different than a family member not being there for you, but it is interesting to me.
I mean, it sort of is in some ways, right? Like the Final Fantasy games to me at that time were like, they're like foundational texts. They felt like I had found the things that were art in this world, right? Like I had found these tomes that were the epics of my time, right? And to have them not be on the platform that I had been so excited about and was a continuation of where I had played them before was just sort of heartbreaking. That
is very heartbreaking.
And I hate to keep like coming back to that like but it's
a through line for you.
It is. It's just so funny to me that like that one little thing, the separation of Nintendo and Sony, and then Square Enix being like, no, so we need to put these games on discs. They're too big. That it's a question of technology. That Nintendo was doing something technologically so adventurous, but so not in line with what the rest of the industry was doing. They were able to do very cool things that just weren't the exact very cool things that I wanted to do.
Yes. It makes me wonder, too, what your relationship has been, what it's been like with the console since then. I assume our relationships are very different, where it's a console that I've revisited quite consistently because it was so influential and special for me and when I was growing up. But for you, is this one that do you play a game every few years from it? Have you just made any discoveries in your true adulthood of games or things that you do have like a connection with?
Oh boy. I mean, it's I remember buying a second Nintendo 64 when I was living in Chicago. So this would have been like 2006 or 7 or something like that. No, probably more like 2008. and having lost track of whatever happened to my original Nintendo 64, like buying
Dave
one of
finally
those.
borrowed it.
Yep, maybe Dave Edwards finally borrowed it. And buying a bunch of controllers and like Donkey Kong 64 and just like a bunch of games to play with my roommates, having a blast with that, but also like kind of a limited time blast.
Sure.
And then like I don't know what happened to that Nintendo 64. It's also gone from my life. I had that pang of like, ooh, I should get this Analog 3D when it was announced, but then I was like, I'm never going to play that, which, I think is totally right that I wouldn't have played it. But, I'll play Mario 64, once a year, once every other year, something like that. Ocarina of Time, another one that I revisit pretty frequently. But sometimes that's on 3DS, as you know. I guess a more recent discovery was that Dr. Mario 64 is actually quite good. That's a fun, bizarre, really hard version of Dr. Mario that I like a lot and is on NSO. But yeah, it is not something that, like, in my mind, I don't put it in the same like deep classics category as the NES or Super NES or even kind of Game Boy. That those I like to revisit for like a little bit anthropological reasons, but also because like they give me the memories of being 8 or whatever instead of the memories of being 15. Yes. So it's just what flavor is my nostalgia, and I think I just tend to want it to be a little bit older.
Yeah, I have a couple of just fun questions to ask you. In my mind, they're fun. Now that because I feel like you kind of gave us a great crescendo there, butLl give you a chance to wrap things up as well. So don't worry, we're not fully done. I wanted to know, thinking back at your time with the N64, are there any games that you played that when you look back, you can't remember what the hell it was at all? And that's where that question ends.
I just can't remember what the game was at all.
Yeah, like, do you ever have I have games in my life from, not necessarily the N64, but like computer games that I played growing up where I'd be like, where looking back, I cannot put a finger on what a title was. Are there any mysteries out there for you? Or, I mean, it's probably bad console to ask us about. Yeah.
Well, right, because again, like I was 14 when it came out. So like, I think I have pretty clear memories of just about all the games that I played on it.
Mm-hmm. Is there a game for you that you never gave a chance to or really invested time into that you think you might actually like on the console?
Well, I think you know the answer to this, Connor. It's your favorite game of all time is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
He's just appealing to me, folks.
No, I'm not. It's true. Obviously, I love the way the 3D Zelda plays on the Nintendo 64. Ocarina of Time is an all-timer for me, but Ocarina of All-Timer. But the one time I really like put in the effort to actually play Majora's Mask, I was doing it on the 3DS. And I had gotten to the end of the like Goron temple up on that snowy mountain, and then had to do the rewind. And I felt good about helping the Gorons out, and fixing what was wrong on the mountain there. And then to have it undone, I was like, this is depressing. So I stopped playing it. Yeah. But that's something that I could get over, I think, because the game seems very cool. So I would say that's one that I would like to get back into. It's
so interesting to hear from you that, and this is something you've expressed to me before in person and on your own podcast.
That's right.
But it just strikes me that the thing that maybe deterred you, I guess, or halted you in your tracks wasn't necessarily the like losing all of your rupees from that day or having to start your progress back. It was almost the emotional weight of the help you had done being erased.
Yeah, well, and it is obviously a testament to like the strength of that game's scenario writing, that I was feeling the danger that the Gorons were in and then upset that even though I fixed it, I didn't really fix it.
Yeah, it's one of the big sticking points of the game itself, which I always have like a crisis with when I play it. I tried to on my final run of of that game. Like if I'm like, okay, I'm about to conclude my playthrough, I have all the masks, I'm gonna defeat Majora. What I will do is I will go and fight all of like the 4 bosses of the main areas, so that at least I've sort of like healed a region, even if all the specifics still have not solved themselves too. Because I'm like, it makes me feel a fraction better than kind of just being like, well, I helped them at one point at the time.
Yeah, it's so fascinating how sad the Zelda games are on Nintendo 64. Because Ocarina of Time is also just like devastating.
Yes.
Especially when you're playing it at 15 or 16 years old, and it's about going out into the world and the things you leave behind as you age.
Yeah, the sacrifices you make. I think that game is because it's in Majora's Shadow as far as the sadness and the darkness. Yeah, it's got plenty of its own there.
Yeah. People don't appreciate how sad Ocarina of Time is.
Yeah, truly. Final question for you before I have you wrap up your thoughts and feelings about the N64 and put a bow on it, Patrick. Are there any other little details about the console, a game, or your experience that you want to toss out here?
I'm thinking now.
You should see, the video viewers can see this, but the audio listeners have no idea how quizzical you just looked.
They don't know what I do to think. Where do I put my hands on my face? Somewhere, probably. No, I wish I had given, even though I know it to be a bad game, I wish I had given more of a shot to Shadows of the Empire, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, because I read that book. I bought those action figures. I was very into the whole like initiative around Shadows of the Empire, but never really played the game. And it's not something I know no patience for it now, but I wish I did commit patience to it when I was younger.
I've never turned it on.
It's just so clunky, man.
Yeah.
It's so clunky. I think it's impossible to revisit as an adult.
I remember even on the box that I had got, again, getting my Nintendo 64 for Christmas of 1998, there was still an image of it on that release. Yeah. Like that box. So I remember being like, wait, what is this? And then never was curious enough to go discover it.
Well, you can just read the Steve Zahn novel, which is pretty good. And you can collect a Prince Zizor action figure, and that's pretty good too.
Sounds like a plan. Mm-hmm. Well, on our way out to just wrap up the N64 of it all, Patrick, can you put a bow on all the I guess the greater point you've been hitting home today?
Yeah, I mean the greater point, I guess, is that I love the Nintendo 64. I love the games that I loved on it, and there are so many of them that like only made sense in that space. But I felt like it was that the rest of the video game industry was leaving me behind until I didn't abandon the Nintendo 64, but just started to look elsewhere. It was the system that convinced me that it was okay to play games elsewhere.
And as much as us Nintendo fans may not want to admit it sometimes, that's very true.
That's very true.
Patrick, thank you for bringing on your melancholic nostalgia to share with me today, dude. This was awesome. I was so excited to have you on and didn't necessarily expect this would be kind of the flavor of today's episode, but I'm so pleased to have chatted with you. Thank you for doing it today.
Yeah, thank you for giving me a space. I know like the rest of these have all been, kind of more like glowing remembrances of being 9 years old or whatever. And so I am sorry if I bring down the mood here. I do not mean to cast aspersions on the system itself or the great games that were part of it. But it is just, it's true to my experience. And looking back on a time of my life that like I didn't consider to be sad at the time. But, and kind of going through it and just like my sort of biography during that time, I mentioned like getting new friends, losing friends, all that kind of stuff. And I think I had like 2 years during that time where I was happy, and the rest of it was all kind of like turbulent.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just it's a weird time for me to reflect on, and also I wouldn't wish adolescence on my worst enemy. What a terrible time for everyone.
Have you seen Pen 15, folks? It's
tough.
tough.
My God, it's so embarrassing.
Well, there's no apologies necessary. It adds a layer of depth, or really rounds out the spectrum of feelings that people have about the console. It's not all perfect age, perfect time, my greatest love as far as the system can go for everybody. So you gave us a lot, and I'm so glad you could be here. We plugged Nintendo Cartridge Society already, but Patrick, plug it again.
No, just wherever you get your podcast, twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday. Nintendo Cartridge Society, check it out.
It's a phenomenal show. I've been listening.
Thank you.
You said you guys have been on for 9. I guess you're going on your 10th year this fall, right?
That's right. Yes.
And as I've told you, I believe I started listening around the launch of the Switch, maybe a little after that. So I've been there for I've got about 9 years to my credit as a listener.
You've been listening for a long time. We do have some exciting plans for the end of the year, like 10th anniversary stuff that I won't spoil here. But we got some cool, and like a little mini series we're talking about doing as well. Tune into the feed for that.
I can't wait. That's just I guess catnip for me.
That's right.
I'm very excited about that. Well, thank you, Patrick. I'll go ahead and just close this out with some plugs of my own. The cover art for Call Me By Your Game is done by Glenn J. You can find him and add a link to his Instagram in the show notes. Everything that we've plugged today or going to plug is in a link wherever you're listening, whether that's on YouTube or on your favorite podcast catcher. The editing, producing, and original music is done by Jeremy Schmidt. You can follow me on Blue Sky if you want at Connor McCabe. You can follow the podcast on YouTube, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And last but not least, if you haven't already, check us out on Patreon. It's a place where if you support us at any tier, you get bonuses for that support, and it helps us grow. It does a lot of great things for us. It helps us do more creative things like this series. But that's going to do it for Volume 4 of the Nintendo 64 Diaries. We will see you on the next one.